Scott, it's good to see you. It's been an
Always
eventful
good to see
week.
you.
How has your week been going?
It's a good week, solid week. A lot of hard work, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, um,
Mhm.
and a lot of progress, which I like seeing.
Man, I have to say that this week, for me, it really felt like we were getting it from all sides again. We're seeing a lot of fear-related information in the news when it comes to economy, when it comes to future, when it comes to interest rates, and also what an incredible tragedy in Texas.
Yeah, there are no words to describe that tragedy. And as we get more and more facts in the public's eye, a lot of failures, and that hurts because we're all parents and we're all adults that love children, and it's rare that you find a human being that doesn't. This one, again, here we go, shocking the world.
Yeah, the honestly, with children that age, like it's so weird when you become a dad. And up here, we have these things called Amber Alerts. Do they just do the same thing in the States?
Yeah, most states. Yep.
Man, wasn't it for me? I noticed because I'm the age where those things started happening before I had kids that like afterwards I started to feel the Amber Alerts,
Yeah.
right? Like I don't just hear them anymore.
Yeah.
I remember at one point almost being irritated, and every time now it's just something that hits. So I just wanted to take a moment and say we feel you, Texas.
Well, we feel you, the parents, and those that have a sense of loss. That sense of loss is something I can't imagine. I have two daughters. To you, I cannot imagine the anger, the frustration, the anguish. There's no way you can feel real empathy for victims like that and those poor children and the trauma. It is just absolute tragedy.
Yeah, and I think that some of the things is that everybody just needs to know that the people around them hear them and feel them, and that they're not going through this, no matter your proximity to it. And one of the things that really connects us all when it comes to how we're feeling, what's taking place, or maybe the escape that we need for some of these realities right now is music.
Yeah.
That was something that was really big for me. Music was a place that I could just get on to, like get out of my world, turn off the noise. And that's why I'm so excited to introduce our guest today, because we have Justin Gray here. Now, Justin Gray does everything. Record producer, songwriter, music executive, tech entrepreneur. The tech entrepreneur side is actually something that kind of gave me a whole bunch of fuel for today's episode. So I have a connection with you there, Justin, on the tech entrepreneur side, and you are running Meteo, which
I
is.
wanted to do a very dramatic slow turn. Is that okay? Is that all right? I felt like we needed to bubble up the tone a little bit after the very
Somber opening.
Yeah, heartbreaking, especially as a Canadian living in the U.S. It's unfathomable that we see these things happening regularly. Anyway, that's not why we're here.
Yeah, it's not why we're here, but that's one of the things that I like about the thing that you're amazing at is that like it can take you other places, right? Like just how your slow turn is taking us to another place. Music is it's like another, well, actually in my house, it's another language.
Wow. I mean, yeah, I mean, I've always felt like, when the world is sort of falling apart, when you look at these moments in time where you see these communities come together, regardless of political ideology, right? You see them come together. I don't say this in any joking way. You don't see actors getting up and doing monologues. You see musicians coming and singing songs and uniting people in a message that I think is something that feels very unifying at these sorts of times. And I know that that's not what we're talking about, but I mean, look, music, is just as strong a memory as smell or taste, right? Like you kind of can harken back to moments in your life where you can hear a song on the radio and literally instantly be transported back to that exact moment. Maybe it was your prom, maybe it was your first kiss, maybe it was, whatever it was, right? Like music is a very, very strong memory.
Man, I connect to that so much. So you and I have this shared experience in tech, and I also know that you and I have some mutual friends in Scott and Chandra.
Mhm. Amazing
And
people.
I was flown short notice to help Scott train for a 60-second pitch in front of 4 billionaires and 800 people in South by Southwest in Texas.
Yeah, wow.
And in training him, I used what you were talking about. I asked him for a song that he was familiar with and felt neutral or positive to him, but not something that he listened to a lot. And he connected with a Canadian artist. We chose the Tragically Hip.
I know.
And so then what I did is I played that on a loop while he was training back to me, so that when he wasn't emoting, we would turn the speaker up. But the reason for the loop was 60 seconds before he went on stage the next day, we played the song.
Cool.
And just like attach that memory to it. So I see what you see. And I think that that's amazing. Now, you've done so much in music. You've worked with some amazing artists. I know that there's like Avril Lavigne, Mariah Carey, so a number of artists that everybody would recognize. But the thing that all my friends
probably more, and also probably more that people would not recognize. You know, the wins are great to talk about, but believe me, it was a long road. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your thought.
No, do tell me more.
Oh, no, I was just saying that I think that it's really wonderful to talk about. You know, everybody likes to look and judge success, and they don't really understand the time that it takes to get there. Like there's forgive me, but I always thought this was a really funny kind of way to put it, which is there's this sort of, again, I'm going to completely paraphrase this analogy, but everybody congratulates you on getting pregnant. They just don't talk about how many times you had to get there. And so, you know, again, the point that, you know, how many times you got effed to get there, right? I think that it's great to talk about the wins and the successes and the points that get on the board, you know, but I've always said, you know, those successes are like one day at my funeral, there's going to be somebody in the back row that's going to say, hey, did you know once upon a time he worked with Amy Winehouse? Like, I don't really hang my hat on that too much personally, but I mean, I appreciate the kudos.
Yeah, and that's something that I was better than what I was going to say, because everybody who knows you knows that you don't just value those highs. It's almost like the people that choose to listen on to music on vinyl, what they really want is like the absences, like those real rich, like next to nothing, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
The spaces in between. And I think that that's the same thing that you're telling me is that some of your greatest experiences were not necessarily attached to the ones that you're known for.
Certainly my biggest learnings were, you know, you don't need to learn anything from success, right? Everybody's a genius in a bull market. Success doesn't teach you anything. The failures teach you the things that get you to success. Does that make sense? I mean, I don't know if maybe I'm not explaining that in the right way, but that's the way that I look at it. I mean, I became a much better songwriter and record producer working with quote unquote less talented people or singers that weren't as good, because my job became, it's really easy to take somebody who's great and turn them into being exceptional. That's easy. Anybody can do that, right? It's how do you take somebody that is okay and turn them into something that is great? That's a much bigger chasm to jump in my mind. And that's applicable to whether I'm songwriting, whether I'm producing, whether I'm, you know, helping young creative people, you know, level up and amplify their careers. I just want to try and see how do we go from good to exceptional. That's a very, very big jump that we need to help people make. So yeah, and you get that by working on stuff that is uninspiring, that's forcing you to go a little bit deeper creatively, you know, and I think that those are the things that build that sort of I don't know, for lack of a better term, that sort of like that moxie that I don't know, they calibrate your brain a different way.
I like the word moxie. And I also like what you're talking about.
That's my grandfather's word.
Sorry?
That's like a word my grandfather would use. I'm going back to the early 1900s.
Yeah, I think that like it's better than some of the words that didn't survive from that era, but I know what you're talking about, that like gumption inside. Yeah. I remember hearing about a fighter talk about it one time. It was Forrest Griffin, and he was saying that in the beginning, the 15 minutes that you spend in the octagon is the best part of your life. It's an escape from your crummy job and, like, you know, maybe a girlfriend that doesn't like you or doesn't like what you're choosing to dedicate yourself to. And then he became champion. And all of a sudden, the 25 minutes that he now had to spend in the cage was the worst part of his life.
Right.
It was away from his kids, and it was where he felt like everything could be taken away from him.
Yeah.
How do you stay hungry now that you are able to choose a lot of what you do? Like, how do you keep your moxie?
So that's such a great question, and I want to try and give an answer that doesn't feel disingenuous or, I don't know, shallow. Look, I've always felt of myself as a songwriter. I'm a songwriter. That's what I do. I play the piano and I write words, but that was never really good enough for me. And I always managed to glean lessons from other people's failures and my own, of course, as well, and have that inform how I make decisions for myself personally, right? So for me, it was, I started as a songwriter. Okay, I met these people. I created a network. Okay, within that network, these people do certain things. Okay, I made decisions deliberately, knowing maybe financially they were deliberate financial miscalculations, but I knew that the experience was going to get me further up the chain of where I wanted to go. So I think as long as you, for me at least, you try to be clear-headed about the decisions that you make. You try not to be emotional about those decisions. And like, if you make a decision and you don't get paid, okay, well, that's fine. But what did we get out of it? So I've always loved this thing. W's are W's, but lessons, they're not losses, they're lessons. And so that's always the way that I've looked at things. So for me, early on in my career, I remember like very, very early on, I was approached to produce and develop an artist for a record label in Canada. I was going to get, I don't remember, $20,000 or something like that to make the record. I did produce the music and the record. The songs came out, they were hits. I never got paid, but the hit song that came out of that turned into my first publishing deal at BMG Publishing back in the late 90s. So for me, it was like, okay, great. You know, yes, that sucked, but the upside to that is exponentially better. And then that led to me getting to work on bigger Canadian artists and traveling the world and starting. And of course, once I was, when I was in Sweden working there on records, or when I went to London and I started working with some of the Spice Girls right after their sort of post Spice Girls, it was like, okay, learning. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't know yet is, okay, how do I take this situation, leverage that, use that as to compound this experience and create better opportunities down the line. And it's amazing, there's some relationships that I've had for 25 years, going back to literally the beginning of my music career. And we now get to work together and play together in tech or in music, because all of those people that we started at this level, they're all CEOs, they're all in leadership positions, and as am I. I've done it more independently than they have, but we all get to kind of grow together. And you guys know as much as anybody, you love working with friends and colleagues and people that you love and trust and believe in. So, and I'm still working with these people today, which is amazing. Can't hear you.
You should, like, obviously you have to consider the money, but if you're really valuing the experience, then sometimes if the money's not there, you still can't lose.
Totally agree. I heard again, I'm big on analogies. So I heard somebody once refer to it, said, make every decision like you have $1 million in the bank. And I thought, that makes a lot of sense, because I can think of the decisions that I made that were purely financial driven. They literally have never worked out for me, not even one time. I can't think of one time where I made the decision to do something for the money that turned out well. But I can tell you a lot of times when I've been put into situations that feel seemingly kind of like, I don't know, benign, that turn out to be the biggest moments in my development in my career. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. You never know when that moment is, because it so often comes disguised as just another day. But I can think of probably 5 transformational moments in my life that came out of just another day, I
always see that, like, the success is the intersection between opportunity and preparation.
I think that's right.
And I think that success passes people by that just aren't prepared for those moments. And it might be benign to you because you are prepared. Like for somebody who is a painter, when another wall comes that they need to paint, it's not a surprise. It's not like a sudden moment that they need to necessarily rise to. They're just ready for that job.
Yes, I agree. What is it? Luck plus preparation or whatever. I don't know, whatever. But yes, whatever you said is agreed. I agree with you. For you.
Scott, there's a lot to unpack here. And it's always nice to just see someone who's bringing such a fresh perspective. Is there anything that you wanted to add? I know that I've been kind of hogging the mic.
But first of all, it's great to have Justin on today, and I think the world could use a different perspective on occasion, and I think this is a fitting and timely guest at the right time. The one thing that defines successful people from those that aren't is the way they treat problems.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, problems are opportunities.
Totally
You
agree.
show me any problem and I will show you an opportunity.
Well, there's solutions.
And that is, therein lies the definition of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And the journey is the destination. And the journey creates the memories that make us who we are. And so success is defined individually and should never be judged by others.
And it should be, and I think it should be recalibrated as you go, right?
Right.
Like you should continue to expand. It's very hard for me to see people that I love and respect that get stunted and they're sort of stuck in this moment because it's not going to last. So if you want to good and bad, right? This too shall pass. And so you want to make sure that you're, to me at least, constantly moving, constantly looking for opportunities, the right opportunities. And we have one commodity that we are able to use to leverage our success. And it's not money, it's time. And so the question is, where do we want to invest our time and where do we believe in that? And so I've learned over the years that, to go back to your success thing, my success, I think, has come from, I even hate using it because I feel like I don't know, the word bugs me a bit because referring to yourself as successful feels so like bleh. But having said that, I found the most joy, and I feel like I've found the most movement in my professional career from looking at somebody and going, I'm not in this to figure out what can you do for me, Scott. I want to know, what can I do for you? Because if I know that I can do for you, then that's really, this is maybe a little bit sly, but I want to make sure that you owe me that favor. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean like, I want to come and I want to see you win. And I've developed pure joy coming in from watching everybody win. Everybody can eat at the table. Everybody can light their candle. There doesn't have to be this sort of like competition. Even when I see, people that are friends of mine that are songwriters and they're having a significant amount of success, I'm like, that's amazing. I'm so happy for you because I'm in this group. And I know that when I have success, they're happy for me. Same on the tech side. It's a very, very small community. And when I see somebody get funded and I see that they can now go from bootstrapping their vision to having dry powder to be able to really see their vision come to fruition, like I'm happy for them. Their success is my success. My success is other success. And that's the way that I've always sort of learned to consume the idea of success.
Yeah, I want to share with you a funny story. I don't know if Taylor knows this about me, but my father was a very famous musician. He was the lead singer of the Highwaymen.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, 1962, 3, 4, 5 cover of GQ magazine. And you'll appreciate this. The Apex, after they toured and opened for Simon and Garfunkel nationwide.
Wow.
He wrote the song "Michael Row Your Boat Ashore." The gold record's still in our family room. So
that's crazy.
Yeah,
wow.
Right. Okay, so here's the story. So I'm 2 years old.
Should I go grab my ukulele really quick and just sing that back to you?
He'd love it. He'd love it. He'd love it.
No. Wait a second. We just got an offer. Whoa. Hold the phone.
Yeah.
I want that story and I want the ukulele. Can we do that?
Let's do it. Nice. All right. I'm going to continue to tell the story so that the rest of the listeners don't have to wait. So my dad goes on the Ed Sullivan Show on a Wednesday night. And back then, 1966, I believe it was, 65, somewhere in there. And I was a newborn. And my dad goes on the Ed Sullivan Show. We were living in New York City at the time. And they do Michael and, of course, a raving hit and Ed Sullivan, the whole thing. And my dad got the band together afterwards and they talked about it and they're so excited and whatnot. Well, the next week they all were at my dad's apartment. Apparently I was still in, my mom's, just sort of holding me, and they're all sitting on the couch and on the living room. And Ed Sullivan starts the show with, and ladies and gentlemen, to start tonight's show, the music sensation from London, welcome the Beatles. And the Beatles came on and they played. And when they were done, my dad, he's notorious for grandstanding. He gets up, he turns the TV off, and then he unplugs it and he says, "We're done. Band's over. Rock and roll is here to stay."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That happened. That's
that came to light.
Yeah.
Was it? Michael row the boat ashore. Hallelujah. Michael row the boat ashore. Hallelujah. I'm completely pulling this out of my butt, but I think it's something like that. Michael row the boat ashore. I'm dealing with COVID, so sorry about that.
It's all right. Well done. My dad would be proud.
And by the way, all of your listeners can get a custom Justin Gray guitar pick should they choose. Free $20 shipping and handling.
Man, you took COVID, and I'm sorry for. I was excited because one, I have a ukulele that lives in my house, and my little girls love that. One of my girls plays cello, and the other one plays violin. Nice. And but this ukulele is like the center of fun. So the moment that and I also just love the way that people connect over music. You
can't have a sad song on a ukulele, and I think that's true.
One of the most inspiring things I've ever heard of the ukulele was the Over the Rainbow story.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I love that story.
But when we're talking about like the vision of music and growth and things, like you're doing a creator platform.
Yeah.
You're making a place where songwriters and artists can make connections and make exchange. Can you tell us about the vision behind Meteo?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up. Like everything that I do as a songwriter is trying to empower other songwriters, and other creatives. And we live in an environment for songwriters and musicians that it is becoming increasingly more difficult to earn a living. And, you can't on one hand talk about how important music is, and then on the other hand, not be willing to compensate the people that are creating it. And so, that was for me, pardon the language, and I apologize, but there's just no other way to say it. It was just complete bullshit. And I wanted to find a way to take and manage to take the successes that I've had and create a platform that allowed me to help empower other songwriters to find that same success. So we created Meteo, which stands for Music Data Intelligence In and Out. I wanted to make sure that it was free to use. I felt like when the music business needs to find profits, the first pockets they go into are those of songwriters. Again, not acceptable. I see friends of mine that have songs on massively successful hit artists, and they're driving Ubers or DoorDash so that they can pay their rent. Not acceptable. Where the idea for me was, how do we pull more songwriters into the world of writing music specifically for film and television? And that's really where the first concept of Meteo came up, which is we wanted to create, this is the boring part, this is the data and tech side. We wanted to create a repository where three songwriters can write a song together, and we can just have a central point of truth. This is a big challenge where songwriters have, we're not getting paid. So you for example, someone might say, oh, it's Taylor Hack with 2 Ks, or someone might say, oh, it's Scott with 1 T, right? Or maybe your 9-digit IPI number or whatever it is 1 digit off. And guess what? Any of that information is incorrect, nobody gets paid, right? So that's just the first problem that we were solving. The second problem we were solving, and I actually think that our timing was pretty exceptional here, was that we began our building Meteo right as the concept of music and metadata became so enmeshed. And now this has become a very key and crucial part for how songwriters get paid. And too many songwriters don't understand the link between metadata and their music. So that's what Meteo is meant to accomplish. And again, totally free to use. I did not want to charge anybody to use this. And we sunk several $1 million into building this platform because there is a philanthropic pursuit that I'm trying to sort of get out there is like, no, there's no fine print. You can upload your music for free. You can tag it with metadata for free. You can be pitching music to our opportunities for free. We only take a success fee. So it's like, if you're not earning, we're not earning. You're not paying a subscription. You're not paying us to like super upcharge your service. It's all free. And so what we've just done is we've built a front end, again, first of its kind, music licensing platform called HyperAudio, HYPRAUDIO.com. That is pretty impressive. What we're doing is we're leveraging AI. So we're taking human bias out of search and discovery and connecting those looking to license songs with those looking to have their music licensed in a, first of its kind AI generated licensing platform. So, and we've seen a remarkable amount of growth within just the last 45 days alone. We've seen almost double the membership of songwriters globally that are joining our platform. And, our goal is to activate their passive copyrights. We you've heard of mailbox money. We want to create email box money. We want to just send you emails, be like, congratulations, you've got your song's been licensed. My goal is to make every single member of our platform a millionaire. I mean, that's what I want to do.
Oh man, I can't wait. So I see that when you're successful, we're going to see like rap songs that start talking about email box money. They're going to be like using words that we don't hear in music right now, like EFT.
Maybe I should trademark that.
Sorry?
I should trademark email box money.
Yeah, and EFTs, electronic fund transfer. Yeah. I think that's going to be that'll land as your platform builds. That's super inspiring because you can see your growth inside of this project. Like you were starting as a songwriter, just finding a way for expression, and then as you've moved up, you've been looking a lot at where you give back. And you were saying that maybe people owe you one, but I really think that you're investing in your inspiring trust.
I say that completely jokingly. I look at my career, sort of like the arc and the evolution of my career. I never had like, I never really had like a mentor, or somebody that I can sort of really watch. I ended up sort of having everybody be mentors. Mostly the people that I saw doing things the wrong way. So I've always wanted to try to empower and give back where I can, if at all ever possible. And anybody that knows me knows that that's completely coming from a genuine place. Like I'm always trying to figure out how do I just make sure that this person is benefiting from it. Even if I was recently hiring an assistant, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody that didn't get the job left the meeting with an opportunity to further their career. Like if it was somebody that was maybe not particularly administratively good, but they were a very good music mixer, right? It's like, hey, you know what? You should go meet my friend so-and-so because they're really looking for somebody who can mix I just always want to make sure that whenever possible, someone leaves an interaction with me feeling like they've received something that they weren't expecting. And for the next 7 days, it won't be COVID, thankfully. So. Yeah.
Well, it's being out and about that basically is something that can result in the tour of COVID that you're taking right now. I think that you're now like all the way through all the vaccinations and also the real disease. Like maybe you're Iron Man now.
I have the full set. I have the whole set.
So you were out and about. You were just at the film festival. You were at Cannes?
I was, yeah. Mm-hmm.
How was it?
Again, I want to tell you, like, this is an opportunity where you learn to say yes to the right things. So there was a film that I got pulled into working on. It's called Spinning Gold, SPINNING Gold. It's the story that's very near and dear to me. It's about a very famous record label in the 70s called Casablanca Records that most notably signed artists like Donna Summer, the Village People, Kiss, George Clinton, Parliament Funkadelic, Bill Withers. I mean, whatever, like literally the fabric of modern pop music. And I got one of my best friends, in fact, probably my best friend and co-creator named Evan Bogart, who wrote Halo for Beyonce and SOS for Rihanna, and a massively successfully super huge pop songwriter, approached me about writing what would be Neil Bogart, who was the founder of Casablanca Records, his father. What would have been his hit song in the 50s because he had a hit song in the 50s that they couldn't find. So we had to recreate this song. So we wrote this song called Cherry on Top. and it got into the film, and in fact, it became kind of a tentpole of the storyline. So we wrote this song, and they were making the film, and then COVID hit. The first wave of COVID hit, and so their production stopped. And then they were having, there was some, as there is in independent filmmaking, there was, financial stuff, and then that resolved itself, and then the actors weren't available, whatever. There was as many sort of roadblocks and hurdles to getting a film done as possible. They had suffered through, and so back in November or maybe October of last year, I was approached by Evan. Do you want to take a shot at composing the music for the film? Now, I'd never done that. I'd done a lot of music for films. I'd worked on a ton of gigantic movies, but literally sitting there and watching a movie going, what does this scene make me feel like? And creating the music for it was something new. And to be quite frank, I was terrified. But the filmmaker really believed in me, and I did it, and I won it by scoring a very, very complicated scene, and did the film. And through that, we got the film done. I get invited to go to the Cannes Film Festival as a part of the, and by the way, I ended up getting a producer credit on the film, also something that I've not done. I go to the Cannes Film Festival, and the film is a rousing success. The party was unbelievable. And now because of that, they have used that and began a film production company. I've already been asked, along with Evan, to come and do all of the music composing for all of their films. So again, it's like, sometimes when you say yes, and again, seemingly whatever, I wrote this song for this film 3 years ago, felt like any other thing I was doing, and now it's turned into this amazing opportunity that I could not have possibly predicted.
Man, a good friend of mine who's done several TED Talks, one of his TED Talks is called Choose Fear.
Yeah.
And I like that you found something that scared you.
Yeah.
What was it about this that, like, were you worried that how you felt about it, like, was going to be different, or what was the scary part?
Well, it sort of culminated at the end of when we were all in Cannes at the screening, and I was kind of like in my chair like this, like, are they going to think I'm a fraud? Like, oh my God, like, is this any good? Is this any good? And I mean, the overwhelming response to how powerful they felt. And I mean, it's so weird because the film is not about the score. Like, I'm not even trying to pretend like it is, but it was so overwhelming to even just have that basic acknowledgement that I helped tell the story from a musical standpoint. Was so reassuring, and it actually gave me the confidence to know that, if the opportunity were to present itself again, I would go into it much more confidently, and it did. And quite frankly, I'm really excited. Like, I've already started having conversations with the director about vision for the film and like what it's going to sound like and how big can we make it. So it's exciting to me, but I've managed to be extremely diligent with my bandwidth, so I'm able to take on a lot of projects, and I still believe that I can function and do them, at the top level. That includes the tech stuff, that includes music production, that includes, songwriting, and that includes music publishing, and really trying to help foster a new generation of songwriters and creators. I can't hear you again. Sorry.
You got it. There you go. Sorry about that.
You're good.
As we, I definitely, you think that you're giving them a lot to follow. When you take a look at all the ways that you're expressing yourself, but the fact that you define yourself as a songwriter, I think that there's a lot of kids that can grab onto that, a lot of young people that can be like, oh, you start with the part that's in you, and all these other labels are just the development of that.
Correct.
Man,
it really all does go back
having that potential of working on a movie, that's incredible.
It does all distill back down to the sort of the ground zero of where it starts. Again, I don't know if you guys know the story of the red paperclip. You guys familiar with that story? Like, that's one of my favorite stories. about how somebody, I think in 15 transactions, traded a red paperclip for a house. And to me, that's what my career has always been, is how do you take this success and leverage it and grow from it? And not in a, again, not in a self, I don't know, not in this, in a way that everybody can win. Everybody can find success, and how we define what that means. So yeah, so for me, the story of the red paperclip has always been a bit of an inspiration. If you don't know it, you should look it up, and if your listeners don't know it, they should look it up because it's really impressive. Actually, it was a Canadian guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I've heard of that. And actually, one of my coworkers, she's currently doing that with her daughter just to teach her the understanding of exchange. So I think that they've traded up to some sort of dish right now that they have out on Facebook Marketplace. But it's neat that children will get that understanding. Were you like that when you were young? Was there would you feel as though that you were full creative, or was there other entrepreneurial expression?
So first of all, what a lot of people don't know is that I, until I was 18 years old, was a professional hockey player. I ended up, just before I got to the NHL level, I injured my shoulder and ended up deciding to quit. But when I was 16 years old, as soon as I can drive a car, I discovered that in Canada, at the time, Petro-Canada was a chain of gas stations, but they were independently owned and operated. So meaning that they could do whatever they wanted on their properties. And so at 16 years old, I started a hand car washing business all around Toronto. We started with one station. By the end of the summer, all of the Petro-Canada, not all of them, but about a dozen of them found out about us. And we started popping up these little student hand car washes around these Petro-Canada stations around Toronto. And I had like 30 grand in cash by the end of the summer at 16 years old. It was amazing. So I've always been very much like reliant on my own, sort of skill set to find success. So yeah, I would say that I've always been entrepreneurial in that sense. By the way, every single songwriter and creator is an entrepreneur because every single asset they build is something that they own, and their job is now to, how do I sell that? How do I license that asset? How do I generate and garner revenue from this intellectual property that I own? So yeah, and for me, it's always been like, this is great, but how do I make this better for people or for myself or whatever that might be?
Yeah, and as a marketer, I'm constantly trying to figure out target market fit. And so sometimes it's about understanding what you have to the point where you can see who it's valuable to.
Right. Totally. I agree. And sometimes you might have to like tweak that message to really hit that market and that audience, right? Like Instagram only became Instagram after what was it called? Failed. But it was the same, it was the same thing. TikTok became TikTok after it was rebranded from Musical.ly. So, sometimes you just have to be able to adjust the message.
Were you thinking about Flick?
No, it was called something else. I probably should have brought up that story if I didn't know the origin of it.
Don't even worry about it. I thought I had it there because there were a few different places that were looking for that visual interaction, and now that's been cornered. But now we're moving into this TikTok space, and I think that there's probably some warnings for creators on TikTok because we're seeing a lot of songs get like born there right now, which is kind of a cool experience. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's amazing. There is a whole new creator empowered, owned opportunity to have a direct to fan connection. One of them is TikTok. One of them, obviously Instagram, but I think the new one, and I'm kind of getting into the space as well, is Web3, NFTs, and crypto, and seeing friends of mine that are able to drive significant revenue from very deep fan, artist to fan connections. So I think that we're in this absolute breakneck speed of evolution when it comes to technology and music. It's amazing. Like, I love talking to my daughter, and she starts singing me, Fleetwood Mac songs because she heard them on TikTok. I'm like, which I think is amazing. I'm thrilled to see that. But I mean, there's a lot of clutter. There's a lot of noise. Sometimes I get frustrated where you see a 10-year-old opening up a toy with 5 million views, and then you see a truly relevant music artist that are putting out incredible content with 12. And so that sort of is frustrating, but that comes back to this sort of thing that we talked about earlier, was every artist or creator has to look at themselves like they are the CEO of their own career. And so what does that mean? They have to make decisions on how they're going to push out their message, especially coming from marketing. As you know, it's like, you can have an amazing product. If nobody knows about it, it's not going to go. You can have an absolute garbage piece of product, but if it is just constantly pushed and is marketed correctly, you're gonna make a gajillion dollars. So a lot of people don't understand that for every, at least for artists, for every hour you spend making music, spend 5 to 10 hours marketing that music.
Yeah,
all the fun stuff.
I totally think that that's something that people tend to look past, is that they say that I've got something good, so obviously somebody's going to want it, right? And it's like, yeah, they will want it, but how do they look past all the people that are showing them other things that they want at the same time? And it ends up being a little bit of novelty and a little bit weird. Like when you were saying that, somebody will get a ton of attention while another person that is maybe doing it from a more genuine place is being missed entirely. That was actually something that was part of Apple's story. Mm-hmm. When they first came out with the iPod, which was a massive revolutionary device for music, it failed quarter after quarter after quarter. And until they started doing marketing, what started off as Mac versus PC, and then having bands like Feist. Remember the Feist commercial for the iPod?
3, 4, 10. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I think Jet was the first one, actually. I think Jet maybe predated Feist.
Yeah, I think that they did. And that was like that kind of launch into it. But all of a sudden it got a lot of attention, and it wasn't a new device.
Yeah, but you know what that also did? But let me tell you what that did from the music side. What that did from the music side. So yes, it did. That worked, right? Because they had these really super cool neon-y commercials with dance, like whatever. Very cool. Excellent job. But what that did from the music side is it allowed authentic artists to also connect to Apple, right? Like it used to be a thing where it was like, you're a sellout. Like, no, they gave me $1 million and Apple authenticated us, we authenticated Apple, and now we can go and do whatever we want. And we've just used this as the most incredible launching platform. Everybody knew Jet because of that Apple commercial. Everybody knew that Feist song because of that Apple commercial. So, right? It's like, so it actually, is a very symbiotic, synergistic, I don't know, whatever, co-beneficial relationship.
Yeah, looking for those collaboration partnerships is something that I think it's like almost like business without borders. When you get on that creative side, there's a lot of people that they're like, those are the suit guys, right? And it's almost like that profile is associated with people that hurt them, right? Whereas on the creative side, if they don't actually end up interacting with the business, then it doesn't become more than a hobby. So it's so tricky, but I like how you define selling out is maybe making a relationship that's only on the money, right? Like it doesn't authenticate the other party.
Yeah, I agreed. I think that, it's funny, James Hetfield and Metallica, when they put out their Black record, whenever that was, 1989 or 92, or I can't remember. Someone said, well, you're a sellout. I said, yeah, selling out Wembley Stadium 3 nights in a row. Like I think that I think that we live in a world where the commodity of music can be both authentic, but also monetized. And it doesn't, where the two used to be a little bit like, they're sort of like, and by the way, completely no issue because they're one of my favorite bands. There was sort of like the Radiohead mentality, which was like super authentic, Pearl Jam, right? Like screw the man, we're going to do this our way. And then there's the other side. There's now a very significant group in the middle where record labels, even though I don't think you need them as much as you do, platforms are able to help monetize artists while enabling them to maintain their authenticity and their independence. That's a big thing of what we're trying to do with Meteo and with Hyper Audio, is to say, look, you put in the effort, I guarantee you the more effort you put in, the more rewards you will reap from this effort. No effort, no rewards. And I think that that's something that people have to also understand. No time, input equals output. And if you really want to be successful, input, you have to double the output from half the input. That's the trick. And too many people, I think, don't realize the level of effort that is required on input in order to extrapolate the output.
Oh man, it's so hard to get anything to go at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you look at the fact that like 80% of our outcome comes from 20% of our input,
yeah.
What do you do to double down on those 20s? Like, I imagine that if you were able to isolate those 20s, you can stack them. So maybe you could get 3 20s and also get 3 80s.
Yeah, I think that to me, that's a bit of if I look back at my career from a musical standpoint, and when I sort of like sign and discover lots of young artists that we want to try and help, or even a lot of stuff that we do through Meteo, we have a couple of events. We have this thing that we do called Meteo U, which is basically like a speaker engagement event that we do once a month. We do something called Meteo X, which we bring songwriters from all over the world together to write songs, and with Grammy level mentors. And one of the things that I constantly try to do is help people recalibrate as they're moving. So maybe early in your career, it is you got to write a lot. And again, the 80-20 principle, which again, I'm a big fan of. You go, okay, well, eight out of 10 of these sessions or these people that I collaborate with might not be great, but 2 out of the 10 might be like lifelong collaborators of mine. And so what you do is eventually you kind of collaborate, find ones. Then you do it more, and then you find a few more. So what you do is you then go back to the well of the 20, and you just keep building on those and compounding on those relationships. And that's where I find, like, most of the people it's very seldom that I'll write with somebody brand new. Very seldom. I just won't do it. I'll go back to collaborative relationships that I know are great for 2 reasons. One is we have a great time. Like, we actually enjoy each other's company in the room, right? Like, that's a huge one, because A, you can hear it, and B, it's really hard to monetize music as a songwriter. So at least I want to make sure that if it's going to reap 0 financial reward for me, I'm having a good time, right? That's the first thing. And the second thing is, we've done business. I know that these people are good to do business with, and we therefore can, when the next opportunity presents itself, I know that business is going to be done. But I want to talk about something interesting that's happened twice this week for me. There was a song that I wrote 2013. I just got an email that a major female pop group wants to record a song that I wrote almost 9 years ago. And I think that's another thing that people don't get is patience. Like, we did it. We planted that seed. Sometimes these trees take longer to grow, but hey, this looks like it's going to happen. Amazing. Another story. We just had a song that I wrote with basically a rock star that we wrote 4 years ago. Nothing ever happened. We just got an email that they want to use it in, it's a show, like a popular show. I can't remember the name now. This week also, 5-year-old song.
That's incredible. And this is something where I'm making the connection now, because you're saying like, hey, I've lived this where I make these things, we find a way to organize and shelf them. Mm-hmm. And then they're assets for us, and we plant many seeds and harvest at a frequency that's out of our control.
I love the way you just put that. That's exactly right.
Yeah, well, I always appreciate people that like analogies, because I actually think in them. So it's a lot of the time, like I'm sure that Scott could tell you, is he's like, where are you right now? You are coming off the walls and the ceiling at the same time.
Excellent analogy while describing analogies.
So I'm seeing this connection in now what you've made, which is a place that anyone not having your abilities can basically do it without taking the failures that you've lived.
I would hope so. I mean, that's the goal, is to try and apply my learnings to build something. Look, here are some of our challenges we have with this platform. People cannot believe that we want to give it away for free. It's like, what's the catch? The catch is, I want to see you be successful, and instead of giving away 50 to 75% of your revenue because somebody sent an email with one of your songs attached to it, why don't you keep 80% of your revenue? And that's only if we help you make money. Like, there's no catch. This is it's not complicated. And we're very bullish on the platform that we built, and I feel very strongly that that given time, we're going to see this become the Airbnb or the Travelocity of how music is discovered and licensed. And what a lot of people might not understand is that every time you see a song on a television show, in a commercial, in a video game, in a YouTube video, in user-generated content on Instagram, on TikTok, that song has to be licensed and contracted. We're talking about billions of transactions a year. So if we can make the discovery and the licensing easier for both sides of that transaction, life changes for everybody.
Okay, I love the word discovery for this, because I think that there's so many people that are in this, in the creative experience, that are finding some way and they believe that they will get discovered.
Yeah.
And that's something that I find is an illusion. Like to just be shooting for like maybe this lottery ticket of somebody shining a big light on you. Most of the time, the people that happened to afterwards didn't have a great experience, because it was music labels that ended up being toxic, and it was these other elements. And you're showing us a different way. Like
it's not just music labels. I mean, when you're talking about record labels and music publishers, you're still talking about a very, very small fraction of a percentage of songwriters that are affiliated to publishers. So it's really, to me, it's curing this issue of the 95% of songwriters that earn less than $200 a year, right? And millions of them globally, and helping create opportunity for them in a way that doesn't feel like predatory. And that's what I'm seeing is a huge issue that we're trying to solve. Like, hey, Scott, you want to be a songwriter? Sure. Give us $19.99 a month, and we'll put you on these lists. And you're at $250 at the end of the year, right? Like, that's bullshit. I don't want that. We're saying, look, we believe so strongly, we want to give this to you for free. We don't want to put our hands in your pocket. We want to make sure that you're feeling empowered and give you. And so, we have over 7,000 creators around the world that are now using Meteo. It's amazing. We have over 100,000 songs, soon to be 500,000 songs on our platform that are there for licensing. So completely transforming the way that, like I said, all sides of that transaction work to everybody's benefit, and leveraging AI to do that, which is, again, super cool. So, and again, we're not asking for any money. We're only asking for money if we help you win. So
take me back to the start of your story when you made the choice to not do other things and just do music. How old were you then?
I was just finishing my second year of college at Ryerson for journalism, and I realized I did not want to be. So what happened was, at the end of the second year, you got to choose your stream. So there was broadcast and print, and then all of the rest of us got shoved into newspaper. and I was already doing music. I loved music. I made a very deliberate decision after my professional hockey career ended that I was going to pivot into that, and really sort of go in. And after my second year, when I decided to drop out of Ryerson, my dad came to me very, very seriously, and he was a serious guy. He said, "We'll support you doing music as long as you are not waking up at 5 in the afternoon. You are, you don't have to pay rent. You can stay in the house. You can live here as long as you like, but as long as you are 100,000% committed to doing this and meaningfully." I said, "I'm in. Let's go." And so having that support behind me and that fear behind me, going back to the fear thing, was really the moment of truth for me. And then I pursued it, and I remember having it. She's now my wife because she's awesome. But when I was 24 years old, I remember pulling out my Motorola flip phone and calling her and saying, "I don't know if this music thing is for me. Like, maybe I'll just go to law school." And she said to me, "You do whatever you want, but I would never marry somebody who's unhappy. I'm never going to marry an unhappy person." So, which is incredible insight for her. At the time, she was 23, and she goes, I would rather you be happy and doing what you love, even if that means that we're not rich and successful, than being miserable and being rich." And she was right. So I listened to her, and she's been a complete, like beyond an advocate for me over the years. So I would say, when I was probably 22, I went for it. When I was 24, I re-upped, thanks to my now wife. And and again, constantly meeting challenges. When I was 32 years old, we made the decision to pick, unanchor ourselves from Canada. I felt like that was the next logical step, and moved to LA. We sold our house. We risked it all, as I tend to do, and it's worked out, thank God. So yeah, that's it. It's and I'm constantly doing that. I'm constantly doubling down, recalibrating, trying to find new ways to solve old problems. And yeah, so I'm just getting some water. I'm really getting hoarse.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And again, you're going through COVID, but still sharing your time with us today, and we really appreciate that.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
And I appreciate you also taking me back to that spot where this kind of started. Now, if you could talk to that 22-year-old you,
Yeah.
right? And one, what would he say if you said that I have a platform that allows 7,000 artists to do what you have to do next in a much easier way?
I would probably say, in 1996, that's amazing.
Yeah, you'd be mind blown to meet your future self, right?
Yeah. I mean, probably 1996, I'd say, what's email? But seriously.
Yeah, but even just knowing that you were able to help that many artists at the point where it was so hard for you.
Yeah. What
I'm wondering now is, like, what do you want to tell the other people that are in that 22-year-old self spot?
Probably what I would say to my 22-year-old self is, every decision that you will make is going to be the right decision, regardless of the outcome. That's probably the first thing that I would say, which is trust that you're making the best decision with the current information that you have. That's the first thing. And again, when I got married and I was 26 years old, I thought, how am I ever going to support my family doing music? And yet here we are. But with respect to what I would tell the 22-year-old, by the way, let me make this easier. I tell this to my 18-year-old daughter, who is a young up-and-coming music producer who's starting to do extremely well. She's killing it, actually, like so much so to the fact that I'm like, we can collaborate on something if you want. I'm trying to get in with her now, her and everybody. They don't want me in there, but what I would probably say to people is, by the way, I write a blog every week. I still write the blog every week that goes out to our Meteo members, just usually with sort of like ideology that I've sort of picked up or want to share over the last week or so. This week we're talking about music in the metaverse, but in the past they've been inspirational. Really, it's about write as much as you can, learn as much as you can, always be willing to grow and expose yourself to situations that feel overwhelming or anxiety inducing, because those are the moments that you grow. Forget about music. Those are the moments that you grow individually as a human being. To me, at least in my experience, that's what that's where you gain your knowledge. Again, like talking about dealing with my tech company, we're sort of flirting with the idea of going public. I have to now think about how do I become the CEO of a publicly traded company. That's a huge learning curve for me. Especially when we're writing, shareholder communications, and I have some of my advisors saying things like, "You can't say that; it's too promotional." Okay, so I've probably, and I don't mean this in a casual way, I've probably gotten smarter in the last 2 years than maybe in the 46 years leading up to the last 2 years, because learning how to effectively run. The tech company, we have 15 people that work with us. The publishing company, we have 10 that we interface with every day, plus our 14 artists that we work with. I have an NFT that I've backed myself into somehow. We have 20 people. So learning how to effectively communicate and tell people what to do without telling them what to do, and helping and leading by example and giving them freedom, but expecting accountability. These are all things that I've sort of learned in the last couple of years. And I'm so grateful. So yeah, I would say always be open to learning. Don't get stuck in your ways. Technically speaking, always try and understand, like even just something as simple as Pro Tools, which you can't see here, which is the DAW that I work in where I make all my music. Like, I'll constantly make sure you have the newest versions, constantly make sure you have the best plugins, because those are the things that are going to allow you to be successful. So what do you need to do to anchor yourself into a position of success? Do that, right? Like I always say, like, hey, if I wanted to be 180 pounds, which I'm not, maybe from the chest up, I look at, but I would eat less French fries and sugar, right? So if I wanted to be in shape, I need to do things that will allow me to successfully be in shape. It's no different. The same thing applies in any aspect of what you do. If you want to be an incredible chef, you have to use incredible ingredients. Give yourself the keys to the best success. And so that's what I would say to anybody that's young.
Well, that's totally sage advice. And everything does happen for a reason. So coming on to this podcast also puts you in contact with my friend Scott here, who has consulted many CEOs on how they communicate with the people that they value as stakeholders around them. So it's always good to make those connections. And that is, I really appreciate the time that you shared with us today.
Thank you. I love, and just for Scott, for you to know, anybody that knows me would tell you this, I love being the dumbest person in the room. And I often make a point of being the dumbest person in the room, because I think that's really the best way for me to learn and grow and get better at what I do. So yeah, we should definitely talk. Plus I love your fire, your
maybe we'll trade, because I love your no music, no life. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, in fact, I have said this multiple times to people. I have discovered the key to life. I've done it. It's done, right? It's rhythm and good music. That's the key to life. I believe that in my heart of hearts.
I love that. Well, I would agree with that. And also good food.
Yes.
French fries.
Good French fries. Yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm going to be in LA. I think I got to look at the dates. I've figured out, but I'm going to be down there within the next 4 to 6 weeks. So let's plan on at least saying hi and grabbing some French fries together.
I would love that. Well, sushi in LA, we got to go for sushi.
Yes, sir. What's that sushi place I went to last time? Oh, I can't remember her name.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a new place that I go to called Brothers Sushi in Woodland Hills. It's a little bit far away. Recently Michelin starred and recently named the #1 best sushi spot in LA, and it's pretty exceptional. You could come too if you want to.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah. That all sounds great. Well, thank you again for your time today. We have been with Justin Gray. He's got some of his titles here, identifies as a songwriter, but also, man, I'm excited to see your movie projects that are coming forward. That's something that's excellent. And what we really want is for everybody to check out Meteo. We're going to definitely share some of Meteo's content so that you can get attached, get on to the weekly blog, so that you can hear a little bit more of what Justin shares about his experience. Thank you so much for being with us today, Justin, on Leadership Line of Sight. Greatly
appreciate you taking the time to speaking to me today, fellas. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. My name is Taylor. I am the Marketing Strategist at Gravidia, and I am here with Scott Connors, the Chief Change Officer at Crankset Group. And thanks, everybody, for joining us, and have an amazing day.